Good evening, universe. Tonight I'm going to be going through the 100 most popular young adult books as rated by this Goodreads list and seeing how I feel about them. Please excuse my mouse just swinging wildly around. My plan is to see if I have read each one and then let you know what I thought of them. I was inspired by Rana's video about the 100 most, popular books of all time, but since I mostly read YA, I thought it made more sense if I went with a slightly more narrow view. I'm going to take off my glasses because the glare is powerful in this video and I can see close up. It's fine. It's not a big deal. The other thing is that please ignore my ratings that I put here. I don't know when I did this. I don't really use Goodreads, so there's going to be a lot here that I either have read and I haven't rated, or the rating is not going to be accurate to my feelings anymore. This list, by the way, is generated via what has gotten the most reviews here on Goodreads, ranked by total reviews per book. Okay, so yes, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. So I grew up really loving the Harry Potter books. They still hold a very special place in my heart for sure. I do have obviously a lot of feelings about the author, but aside from all of that, it will only list like one book in a series so that it's not just like the same one coming up 1,000 times. So this is for like the whole Harry Potter series, basically. Yeah, I really loved Harry Potter growing up. It was definitely my favorite book series. It's definitely still the books that I have read the most. You know, I had a different favorite at all sorts of different times. I think Goblet of Fire probably holds the most special place for me still, because it was the first one that like released after I had started reading them. So when I started reading the Harry Potter books, the first 3 books had come out. Goblet of Fire was like the first one that I had to like wait for. So it holds a special place in my heart. Looking back, I definitely see a lot of things that aren't done technically the way that I would like them to be done in a book series that I like. However, they are still very charming to me. I don't think I'm going to go back and read them ever again. I've read them probably enough for one lifetime. And I also don't have the books anymore because, like I said, lots of feelings about the author and stuff like that. So it's a little bit conflicted for me. And that's probably why I didn't put a rating here. I guess what I would say is that I think the books are really enjoyable and charming. And obviously, they're a cultural phenomenon. So many people have read them. I feel like they changed the landscape of young adult / middle grade books. And I think that's really important to note. I loved them once. I might still love them, but they're such a conflicted series for me now that I'm not really sure where I stand on them anymore. Okay, to The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This is another one that I have read. I really loved this series when it came out, even though it is so dark and I don't tend to like incredibly dark things. I did really enjoy it. I think it was an important moment. It created kind of the dystopian wave. Overall, I think the books are quite well done. They helped, I think, a younger generation reflect on some stuff that goes on in our society. And so I really appreciate them for that. Liked the second 2 books as well. I think the second book was the weakest, but I really liked the third book. It was so heart-wrenching. I'm probably not ever going to read them again because I already know what happens and they're just a little bit too much of a bummer for me to sink back into that world so many more times. Okay, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I don't usually read literary fiction, even YA literary fiction. But, there was that movie made about it. It was really well known. I was interested, definitely read it, and it definitely made me cry a lot. I think it is well done for the most part. And I think it brings up some interesting questions about the teenage experience, especially the chronically ill teenage experience. It has a little bit of an energy that I don't think I would really enjoy that much now. I don't think that I would love the characters now. I think it was a fine book. It made me cry, but it didn't really rock me, you know? Divergent by Veronica Roth. I haven't read it. I don't plan to. It just wasn't really the type of thing that I would be interested in. As far as I know, this came out in the dystopian boom, I guess we'll say. And I just was never really interested in it. I picked it up. I didn't really like the voice. Yeah, that's pretty much that. The book Thief by, I cannot see that name. It'll tell me if I hover over it. Marcus Zuzak. I have not read this. It seems super intense and it did not pique my interest, so I haven't read it. The Giver by Lois Lowry. This one I read when I was very little, by which I mean I was in I want to say 4th grade. I loved The Giver so much. I still have warm memories of it, although I don't know how much I would love it now, but I did absolutely adore it at the time. I did not know it is a series, but I think each book follows a different person, and then the 4th book, because I think there's 4, and then they all join storylines. I'm not positive, but I am kind of interested in them. Please let me know if you have read the other ones, if you think it's worthwhile. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. So this was the first Cassandra Clare book that I read. I read her books in order of publication. As you can see, I have it rated 4 stars. I haven't read this in a long time, but I remember loving it so much. I'm having such a good time with it. I do love the Shadowhunters series a lot, although I will say that I think The Mortal Instruments is one of my least favorite of the series that exist. I feel like every time she puts out a new series, I like that one more. Although I will say, unpopular opinion alert, I think The Infernal Devices is probably my least favorite one. I don't know. But I do still really love The City of Bones, and I plan on going back and rereading it soon and seeing what it's like again with fresh eyes. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is, as far as I know, another literary fiction. Wasn't really my thing, never was really interested in it, and I'm not going to read it. Looking for Alaska. So after I read The Fault in Our Stars first, and after that I was like, oh, that was really cool and interesting. I'm gonna read Looking for Alaska. Like I said, I don't usually read literary fiction, and I did not enjoy this book very much. I did not really like the characters. I didn't really feel like I connected with the struggles that the character was having. That one drink, what is it called? It's like milk and some kind of alcohol. Was it whiskey? Was it vodka maybe? That sounds foul. That's not the reason I don't like the book. Just side note, that sounds so gross. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I did not like it. I did not like any of the main characters. It didn't really tug on my heartstrings. I liked the way that it was set up with the before and after. I thought that setup was really cool and interesting, but that was pretty much the only thing I liked about it. And I did not read any more John Green books after that. Wait, that's not true. I also read Paper Towns, but I think I read that first. Okay, A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine. L'Engle. Haven't read this. It was recommended to me as a youth, and I just never really got around to doing that. I don't think that I will either. When is this even from? 1962? Dang! Wow, that's way older than I thought it was. I thought it came out in the 80s. That's interesting. I don't really have an interest in reading this, and so I probably will not. The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I never really had an interest in this book either. I haven't read it. And then one time, my roommate, whose opinion I trust pretty well, there are a lot of things that I like that he does not like, but he went on this extremely long rant about why he does not like this series. And so I will not be reading this, not just because he doesn't like it, but I didn't have interest in it from the first place. And he did not fill me with confidence. Okay, The Outsiders by Se Hinton. I read this in school. It was also one of my mom's favorite books. I thought there were parts of it that were very cool and interesting. I thought it was fine. I wasn't particularly blown away by it or anything like that. Why is my lighting wigging out right now? Are we good? Well, I'm sorry if that keeps happening. Anyway, I didn't really like The Outsider. It was fine. I guess I don't really get why it's so life-changing for so many people. I wasn't really... It was was fine. The Selection by Kiera Cass. I have not read this. I don't think I will. There's a lot of books in the series. Okay, so it looks like my lighting is just going to keep doing that wobbly thing. So if you see that, I'm so sorry if that's distracting. Anyway, I'm not going to read The Selection. It just doesn't really seem up my alley, even though this dress is very cool. Because this is like fantasy Bachelor, right? That's the idea. Hunger Games plus The Bachelor. That's what I think this is about, and I'm not really interested in it. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I will not be reading that. I was never interested in it because, once again, I don't really like literary fiction for the most part, and though I have not read it myself, my understanding is that a good chunk of the descriptions and other things are kind of racist, and I don't want that energy in my life or to support that. So I'm gonna not with that. Anne of Green Gables. I did read this as a kid. I did not finish it, but I read a good chunk of it. I really liked Anne of Green Gables when I read it as a child. I don't think I would like it now, but I think it's a cute story. Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is what I'm talking about. This is the stand-in, for the Lunar Chronicles, and I loved the Lunar Chronicles. Still really enjoy the Lunar Chronicles. I had to pause for a second, so I am back now, but I was talking about the Lunar Chronicles. The Lunar Chronicles came to me at a time when I was not really reading that much, so they really helped me get back into reading. I really love the Lunar Chronicles, and I really appreciate them for helping me come back into reading. That was a long time ago when I found them. I think like 2013-ish. I feel like winter was a little bit rushed in some circumstances, but the Lunar Chronicles will always have a special place in my heart. Okay, here we go. The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I was talking about these earlier. I did not like these as much as I liked the Mortal Instruments. Okay, my disclaimer for this is that I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out when I was reading these books, and I read the trilogy when I was still recovering from having my wisdom teeth taken out. So, or maybe I was sick. It might have been that I was sick. Either way, I was not in my usual mind state, and maybe that's why I didn't connect with this one as much. I kind of want to give it another try. I like Tessa now, but I did not like Tessa that much when I was reading this. She just felt kind of bland, but I do like the vibes a lot. I also felt like the villain in the Infernal Devices is just not as compelling as the villains in other series. So I liked it, but it is probably my least favorite Shadowhunters series. Okay, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not interested. I said this before. I'm not a fan of Sarah J. Maas. So what I usually do when I'm deciding if I'm going to read a book is I read the plot, and then I will pick up and start reading the first page. And if the first page doesn't grab me, or if it actively repels me, obviously I won't read it. That is what happened here. I was uninterested in the main character entirely, and I think her name is Selena. She seemed annoying to me immediately, so I did not pick this up. And it's really long now, so I don't think I'm going to. There are just so many things that I would rather read. Okay, so next, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Not interested in this. Not really interested in anything by Rainbow Rowell. Vampire Academy by Rachel Mead. So I think I started reading this, but I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I might be mixing it up with a different, like, vampire young adult book that came out at the time. It sounds kind of fun. So it's what, vampires in a boarding school? I mean, that's a pretty cool concept. I'm interested in that. Let me know if it's good. I have little information about this. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This is, I laughed when I saw this 3-star rating. Keeping it harsh over here, me. So I like this series. I do think that Red Queen is the weakest in the entire series. I feel like the author was still figuring out what exactly she was doing, but it's also been a really long time since I've read this. So this is definitely one that I want to reread pretty soon. But I like a lot of the concepts. I like the characters okay. I like them more as the books go on. They really become fully developed for me in a way that they weren't necessarily in the first book. But I think it's a solid introduction to the series, and I liked the concepts and the magic enough to continue. And then the rest of the series I really enjoyed. So like I like the series more with each book. Speak by Laurie Halsey Anderson. So this is a literary fiction, right? I'm pretty sure this covers really heavy topics. That's pretty much all I know about this. Again, I haven't picked it up. Literary fiction, not my thing. Probably won't pick it up. To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I have not read this. It's a romance or a literary fiction. I think it's romance, right? It seems like romance. I'm not interested. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is one that made such waves that I might end up picking it up at some point. But again, it's literary fiction, so I am less interested in it. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. My feelings are the same about Throne of Glass. I'm not interested in this. I know a lot of things about this, and my interest is not piqued. Legend by Marie Lu. I've gone back and forth about whether I want to check this out. I don't really remember what this is about. I think it's like a dystopian, right? Like a futuristic dystopian type situation. I have not checked it out. I might at some point, but it's not high on my list of interests. Fifth Wave, Rick Yangley. I have no idea what this is even about. I'm not really interested. I don't think I've ever even heard of this. Oh, Yancey. Rick Yancey, not Yangley. What did I say? Sorry. Rick Yancey. Graceling by Kristen Kashor. I've heard this is pretty good. I don't currently have interest in reading it though. Let me know if I should pick it up. Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. So this is probably, I'm assuming, a romance. Not really interested in romances. And also, I watched Murphy Napier, and she has a lot of feelings about Anna and the French Kiss, and her descriptions of the characters make me uninterested in checking this out. Everything by Nicola Yoon. I have no idea what this is even about. It sounds like a literary fiction. Sounds like some intenseness. The greatest risk is not taking one. Okay, that definitely sounds like a literary fiction to me. Probably not interested. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Yes! Okay, I am a huge Laini Taylor fan. I loved Daughter of Smoke and Bone, the whole series. I love the writing style. The characters are great. The world is beautiful. I absolutely adore this series. As you can see, I rated it 5 stars on here. Definitely one of my top favorite series. I feel like I don't talk about it that much on my channel because I always default to Strange to the Dreamer because I like that one even better. But I do love Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Excellent series. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, so I have read this. It was fine. It was a YA fantasy. I don't really know what to say other than that. Alina, I thought was kind of boring. I actually liked Mal. I finished the series. I didn't DNF it or anything, but it was fine. All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. Once again, this seems like a literary fiction. I don't know. I have not heard of this, and I'm not interested in reading it. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Now we're talking. I love Six of Crows. I think the duology is fantastic. I think the characters are great. I definitely think the Six of Crows duology is Leigh Bardugo's best work by far. Definitely really love it. Intend on reading it again. Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is a queer book, right? I think this is like a romance. I think it's about a gay teenager. That's pretty much all I know. I'm not interested in reading it. The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. Author who is definitely watching this video. I am not interested in reading The Raven Cycle. The characters didn't seem interesting to me. I don't know. I don't really even know what this is about. I'm just not interested in it. Also, this is such a small thing, but there's 4 books in it, right? It's like The Raven Boys, something, The Raven, and then book 3 is like Lily Blue, Blue Lily, something like that. And then it goes back to like the Raven title. I don't know why, but that naming convention just really bothered me. That's not the only reason I'm not interested in it, but it is like a reason. I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This seems like another literary fiction is my guess. I've never even heard of this. I'm not interested. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Saints. Not really interested in this either. I think this is like another gay story. I think it's like a romance or literary. Either way, not really interested in this. Perfect Chemistry by Simone Elkeles. Not interested in this. I have never heard of this before. Looks like a romance. Not my style. Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. Didn't she do Pretty Little Liars? Isn't that who this is? Maybe not. Either way, I've never heard of this. Not interested. Sounds like a literary fiction or maybe a romance. I just assume that everything that isn't fantasy is a literary fiction or a romance. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Oh, that's weird. I didn't know that this is YA. I don't think I'm interested in reading this. It's not high on my list of interests. I know it's a fantasy. I believe it's a high fantasy. I don't know anything about it, pretty much. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Okay, so this one I do know. I have actually read this. I read it in college. This is definitely literary fiction. It's a rough read. I think it was really well done in a lot of ways and also incredibly sad. I wouldn't really say that I enjoyed reading it, but I think it's good that I did. Obsidian by Jennifer Armentrout. I am not interested in Jennifer Armentrout books. I think this is a romance just because I know the title. That's what she's known for, right? It's in the Lux series. I'm guessing by his glowy eyes and by the fact that there's like a little "they're not like us" ... going on underneath. It seems like this is a urban fantasy. I'm not interested in this. It looks hokey. Okay, The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen, author of this lullaby. Okay, so she did not, in fact, write Pretty Little Liars. Otherwise, they definitely would have put that on there. This looks like a literary fiction. My guess is that somebody is dying in this book. That's what I think this is about. I guess that's what I'll do. I'll just try and guess what these books are about. I think somebody's dying, and this person here in the back has to make their peace with that. The Truth About Forever. It's kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini. I like your last name, Ned. This looks like literary fiction to me, and I'm not interested in reading it. Okay, so it has roads on the cover. I think that this one is about a person who wrecks their car. And then the whole book is about them explaining to their parents what happened to the car in a very roundabout way. That doesn't really sound like literary fiction the way that I've described it, but it is. There's important emotional beats going on. The car is a metaphor. James Patterson, Maximum Ride. I have no interest in James Patterson books. I will not be reading this. Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I have read this. I thought it was fun and cute. I like the movie better, but I do think it's interesting I really like comparing and contrasting things and their adaptations. So that was really cool. This is a weird cover. I don't feel like this cover captures the feeling of the book, but yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. Unwind by Neil Shusterman. I don't know what this book is about exactly. It seems a little bit dark, not really something I'm interested in. And also, Neil Shusterman wrote Scythe, I'm pretty sure, and the ending of Scythe did not really interest me that much, so I'm not going to read this. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Again, not interested in Rainbow Rowell books. Sarah Dessen, Along for the Ride. This looks like a romance for sure. Look at this bicep guy. What is happening? Okay, I see. It's because I'm not wearing my glasses. Yeah, this looks like a romance. Not really interested in that. Okay, so what I think this book is about is she gets grievously injured because she's riding her bike with bare feet and backwards. And then he also gets injured. They both get injured in a terrible bike accident. And then the book is about them falling in love with each other while they have to stay in the hospital. Okay, number 51, One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. I've mentioned this before. I have read this book. I read this fairly recently, and I really enjoyed it. This is a YA thriller / murder mystery type situation. I loved it. I thought it was really well done. All the twists were twisty. The characters were interesting, and I thought it hit on some cool real world topics. Sabriel by Garth Nix. One warrior to challenge the dead. That's a cool description. I remember picking this up and reading the first couple of pages and not really being interested. So I don't know if I'm going to pick this up at any point. I don't really have any immediate interest in doing so. I've heard a lot of people talk about how much they love the series though. So maybe someday. Number 53, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I love The Cruel Prince. I love Carden. I love Jude. I love a lot of the other characters that are in the series, but not enough to name them, apparently. Definitely one of my favorite series. Oh yeah, okay, so this is checked as want to read. So obviously the last time I went through Goodreads was so long ago. Really liked it though, and I definitely intend on reading it again, but not as soon as some of the other stuff that I've read further in the past. I like to wait for my rereads until the book gets a little bit like foggy so that I can be like surprised and delighted by things again. This Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. Man, Sarah Dessen, you are doing a great job. I'm sorry for not knowing who you are. You are doing great. I have no interest in your books though. An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I love this series. This is another one that I feel like it gets a little bit better the more that you read. I love all the main characters. It's kind of a dystopian fantasy where the world is really bad bad and the people have to rise up against it to do something about it. And I really just love the world in this book. So this is definitely another reread, probably before The Cruel Prince, because it's been longer since I've read An Ember in the Ashes. And I think it's really well done. The lore of the world is really cool. Fantastic series. The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I have actually heard of this one. And by that I mean I've heard the title or possibly seen the title in stores, but I also have no idea what it's about and I don't intend to read it. Okay, Bloodlines by Rachel Mead. So is this not part of Vampire Academy? Because it seems like it should be. I don't know. I'd probably read Vampire Academy first. More interested in that. I don't even know what this is about. Sydney's blood is special. She's an alchemist served to bridge the world of humans and vampires. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I might check that out, actually. Do you have to read Vampire Academy first? Somebody tell me. Angel Fall by Susan E. I have no idea what this is about. I'm going to assume from the title that there was a fallen angel, and the fallen angel is going to be the romantic interest. He's going to be the hot guy. I think this is an urban fantasy, and I think it follows a girl who meets the fallen angel, and she has to, like, restore his wings. What is it actually about? It's been 6 weeks since angels of the apocalypse descended to demolish the world. Street gangs rule the day while fear and superstition rule the night. Okay, sounds like I was extremely wrong. Post-apocalyptic angel, I mean, that sounds kind of cool. I don't think I'm interested though. Not high on my list of concerns. Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepidis. Never read this. I don't know what it's about. This looks like a literary fiction for sure, especially with that title. Any other 15-year-old Lithuanian girl in 1941? Wow. Okay. Until one night when Soviet officers barge into her home, tearing her family presumably apart from their home. That sounds really heavy. Not interested, but hopefully somebody, I mean, it seems like somebody else is because it's really popular. Okay, so The Dark Artifices by Cassandra Clare. I really loved The Dark Artifices, but only because I love the main leads. Like, I didn't feel like the plot was as strong as The Mortal Instruments or even The Infernal Devices. It was a little bit meandering. And the villains in this series are not quite as compelling to me. However, I loved the romance and the setting and the family dynamic. I rate this pretty highly, even though there were a lot of things about it that I was not that excited about. That's why it has 5 stars here in my rating, because Julian is in it. That's the real reason. The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. So I read this a really long time ago. I thought it was pretty well done. It was a fun, fine urban fantasy. It's about a girl who I think has like necromantic powers, and then there's like a mystery. So I don't want to say too much because I don't remember what's a spoiler and what's not. But yeah, it was fun. Recommended to me by a friend. Very cool. The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkins. Okay, so this to me seems like a thriller. I think it's about somebody who discovers that their memories aren't real and they have to discover who they were before the beginning of the book. Hey, okay. Mara Dyer doesn't think life can get any stranger than waking up in a hospital with no memory of how she got there. It can. She believes there must be more to the accident she can't remember. My guess about memories was actually pretty good, so that's cool. I have no interest in this book. Brandon Sanderson, Steelheart. I don't know what this is about. Is this within the Cosmere? I don't think it is. I will probably get to this eventually, but I want to read all of the Cosmere books before I dive into Brandon Sanderson outside of the Cosmere. Extraordinary Powers, epics. Oh, okay. Oh, so it's like superpowers. That sounds pretty cool. So The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This to me sounds like an urban fantasy, maybe a dystopian fantasy of some sort. I read another book by Alexandra Bracken that I ended up DNFing. I don't know if it was just because it was a middle grade. Maybe I would like this series more. I don't really have any interest in it though. My guess is that there is a genius hot guy and he's a rival to our genius main girl. What are they rivals about? They're trying to get control of a street gang. When Ruby woke up on her 10th birthday, something about her had changed, something alarming enough to make her parents lock her in the garage and call the police, something that gets her sent to Thurmond, a brutal government rehabilitation camp. She might have survived the mysterious disease that's killed most of America's children. Okay, so I was right about it being some kind of dystopian situation. But she and the others have emerged with something far worse, frightening abilities they cannot control. Okay, so it's a superheroes or supervillains situation. She joins a group of kids who escapes their own camp. Liam, their brave leader, is falling hard for Ruby. She can't risk getting close. Okay, so they're not rivals, it doesn't sound like, but I was right about a couple things. Okay, Poison Study by Maria V. Schneider. I have never heard of this in my life. I think it's a romance that is about a girl who is trying to save the life of a guy who has been poisoned. About to be executed for murder, Yelena is offered an extraordinary reprieve. Okay, I still don't really know what it's about, but I have no interest in it. I'm the Messenger by Marcus Zuzak. This is the guy that wrote The Book Thief. Does not sound up my alley. My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. This is a romance. This has to be a romance. A gorgeous debut about family, friendship, first romance, and how to be true to one person you love without betraying another. Kind of sounds more like literary fiction. Let me know if you have read this. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I have this book. I intend on reading this book. I am excited to do so. Crank by Ellen Hopkins. Literary fiction. I'm pretty sure this is a series of short stories, right? I have no interest in this. Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brunt. So this could be fantasy. This could be a literary fiction. This could be like historical fiction, maybe? In the striking literary debut. Okay, so it's a literary fiction. I don't have interest in that. Unearthly by Cynthia Hand. This looks like a vampire situation. Oh, but it has a tiny feather on the front. So maybe like an angel. This looks like a paranormal romance with angels. Okay. There's a boy standing in the trees. Claire Gardner has recently learned that she's part angel. Okay, so she's the part angel. Interesting. I have no interest in this. Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I liked the first book a lot. Did not like the sequel as much, and I liked the third one even less. I DNF'd it. But the first one was great. Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Once again, this looks like literary fiction. My guess is somebody drowned. And it's a secret. Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. This is a cool title. Looks like a paranormal romance, maybe a fantasy. I'm not really interested in this, to be honest. Looks romantic, though. Illuminae, the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I am not a fan of Jay Kristoff. I don't like Jay Kristoff because I am not interested in Nevernight. And I'm just not really interested in anything that Jay Kristoff is doing, so I don't want to read this. The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adier. I was really excited to read this once upon a time, but then I became unexcited to do so because I picked up the other book series by her. What's it called? It's the one with vampires in the French Quarter, I want to say. That's the same author, right? I did not like that. I started reading this to see if I liked the voice more. I was not connecting, so I decided not to read it. But I read so little of it that I can't even call it a DNF. I'm not interested, though. Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. Since You've Been Gone sounds like it could be literary, and it also sounds like it could be a romance. I'm not sure. Is it a queer romance? That's what I think. Oh, it's a mystery. No interest in this. Maggie Stafevider, The Scorpio Races. Once again, not interested in this. I don't even know what it's about. So horses. Sounds like horses. I'm not interested in this. Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. I've never even heard of this. I have no interest in it. The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. Hey, we remember them from earlier. This looks like a literary fiction, and also when I skimmed over it, I saw something about Sister's death, so pretty sure that it's a literary fiction. Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. This sounds like a romance. Not interested in this. The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I am actually interested in this. This sounds like a classic fun YA fantasy romance. Please let me know what you think. I've heard good things about this, so I'm interested to check it out. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. I have never read this. I have heard of it. I've seen it on shelves. Not really interested in it. Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I really liked this overall. Standalones are weird for me. I prefer series, but overall I liked it. I thought it was fun and very sad. Enjoyable though. Pretty good time. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This sounds like a literary fantasy. Literary dystopian. I don't know. I'm not interested in this. Sounds really sad from the title. Doesn't seem like my jam. Born at Midnight by Se Hinton. This has to be a vampire book, right? Or a werewolf one. Okay, so paranormal romance. Welcome to Shadow Falls. I still don't know what it's about. I think it's a paranormal romance. It looks like there's going to be a love triangle. It just seems that way. I have no interest. Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson. Is this a novel? or is this a graphic novel? Either way, I am not really into the Marvel universe, so I'm not really interested in checking this out. Just One Day by Gail Foreman. This has to be a literary fiction. Breathtaking journey towards self-discovery and true love. Definitely a literary fiction. I'm going to say that this is about a person who lost the person that they love, and then they come back as a ghost, but only for 24 hours. Yes! Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Yes! I love Strange the Dreamer so much. I want to do a reread soon and talk about all the reasons why I love it. So good, dudes. It's so good. A lot of people don't like it. It's interesting because I feel like it's really polarizing. A lot of the people that I watch on BookTube seem to really not like it and feel that nothing happens, but also it's really like popular and well loved. So I don't know. Warcross by Marie Lu. Player, hunter, hacker, pawn. This seems like I think this is a dystopian, futuristic dystopian. I thought that about Legend also though. Maybe that's just her vibe. I don't know. I am not interested. I'm interested in it. The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. I don't know what this is about. I assume it takes place in the world of his other books, which I also have not read, and I don't know what they're about either. I'm not really interested in this. 5 Feet Apart by, why are you making this so tiny? Rachel Lipinzel? By Rachel Lippincott, Mickey Daughtry, and Tobias Iaconis, contributor. In this moving story, 2 teens fall in love with just one minor complication. They can't get within 5 feet of each other without risking their lives. Oh, that's a really cool cover. I don't have interest in this. Literary fiction with romantic elements seems the most accurate. The False Prince by Jennifer Nielsen. I don't know what this is about, and I'm not interested in it. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I am interested in this. I've heard this is pretty cool. I want to read some Victoria Schwab books. She's such a big author. This seems like a good one to start with. On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. Once again, pretty sure this is literary fiction. Not really interested in that. Sadie by Courtney Summers. What a cool cover. And there's like another book by this author that I feel like I'm interested in, but this does not seem like what I want. This looks like a thriller or a mystery of some sort. Somebody's gone missing. I'm guessing the missing person's name is Sadie. Not interested in reading this book though. Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I love the Renegades. I think it is so fun. I love superhero books, and I really liked what she did with the world and like the meaning behind the story. I thought that was all really cool and interesting. There are a couple things that I had some complaints about, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This looks like literary fiction once again, so I'm not really interested in that. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I don't know what this is at all. I don't really have any interest in this. This seems like literary fiction, not my deal. A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a fantasy retelling, right? It's like a retelling of Beauty of the Beast where the main girl gets like snatched from our world to be the princess. I'm not interested in this. That was all of them. How many of these have I actually read? Okay, so of all the books, I didn't count them as series. All the books / series on this list, out of all 100, I have read 24 of them. Surprisingly low, not even a quarter of them. Wow. There were definitely some series that were not on here that surprised me. For example, Percy Jackson. Like, does Percy Jackson not count as YA? They counted Harry Potter as YA, and other books in that same age range like The Giver, Anne of Green Gables. There are definitely some books on here that I would consider younger than YA, like Percy Jackson, and yet Percy Jackson is on here, so that's really surprising to me. I would definitely think that Percy Jackson would be on here, but maybe there's a middle grade list. I don't know. But also I was surprised there were some things on here that I had never read. Obviously this is going to be skewed in some kind of particular way because of the way that it's like collected, but let me know if you have read these, if there are any on here that I said I had no interest in that I should check out. That was really interesting. I enjoyed checking out the most popular books. I read less of this than I thought. I was trying to find a young adult fantasy list, but I was not able to find a most popular young adult fantasy specifically. I feel like that would be a lot higher, but maybe I'll check out other articles. How many of these have you read? And most importantly, have a great night, universe.